Have you ever noticed that your grandparents seem weirdly happy? Like they'd just played mahjong for 8 hours straight, came home glowing, ate dinner and slept like a baby. No guilt, no anxiety, no voice in their head saying they should have been doing something more productive. Meanwhile, you spent your Sunday alternating between working and feeling guilty about not working, and somehow ended up doing neither properly. So what did they know that we don't? Turns out, scientists actually studied this, and the answer is not what you'd expect. Let's start with something called the happiness paradox. The harder you try to be happy, the less happy you become. Psychologists have actually confirmed this. It's real. It has a name, the happiness paradox. It works exactly like trying to catch a bar of wet soap in the shower. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it shoots across the room. Most of us are actively making ourselves less happy by trying too hard to be happy. But here's the strange part. Older people seem completely immune to this paradox. They are not trying to be happy, they just are, regularly, consistently, almost effortlessly. And researchers went looking for why. They found something wild. Across 145 countries, happiness follows a U-shaped curve across a person's life. It starts relatively high when you're young, dips hard in middle age, your 30s, 40s, 50s, and then climbs back up in old age. 145 countries, the same U-shape everywhere. Despite the fact that older people are dealing with health problems, physical decline, loss of friends and family, cognitive changes, they are still reporting being happier than middle-aged adults, happier than people who are objectively in better physical shape than them. So what is actually going on? The answer comes down to something researchers call intergoal compatibility. This sounds complicated, so let me break it down simply. Your happiness on any given day doesn't just depend on whether you're doing something enjoyable. It depends on whether doing that enjoyable thing fits with everything else you're trying to do with your life. Read that again, because it's important. If your enjoyable activity conflicts with your other goals, even just in the back of your head, it will not make you happy. It will make you anxious. Think about it. You sit down to watch a show on a Tuesday evening. Are you relaxed, or is there a small voice somewhere saying you should be working on that project, should be at the gym, should be calling someone back, should be doing something more productive? That small voice is goal conflict, and it completely kills the joy of whatever you're doing. Now here's why older people don't have this problem. Think about what your goals look like in your 20s, 30s and 40s. Researchers call this the accumulation phase. You are simultaneously trying to build a career, establish your reputation, acquire new skills, maybe raise children, save money, build relationships, secure your future. Every single one of these goals is urgent, time-sensitive, demanding, and may all require you to delay gratification right now for a payoff later. In this phase, when you sit down to play a game or take a long nap or spend a whole day doing something just for fun, your brain immediately registers it as a threat to all those other goals. A day spent on fun is a day not spent building, and so the enjoyment gets poisoned at the source by guilt and anxiety before it even has a chance to land. You're physically at the mahjong table, but mentally you're still at your desk. Older adults have a completely different goal structure. Their urgent accumulation goals are mostly done, career built, kids raised, house paid off. And the goals that move to the center of their lives are things like emotional connection, presence, joy, meaning, relationships. So when an older person sits down to play mahjong for 8 hours, there is no competing goal whispering in their ear. Playing mahjong is the goal. The enjoyment doesn't fight anything. It fits perfectly into their whole life system. That's intergoal compatibility, and it's why they win at happiness without even trying.
Now here's the really interesting part, and this is where the science gets genuinely surprising. Researchers wanted to know, is this shift in older adults purely about wisdom? Like, do you just eventually figure life out through decades of experience? The answer was no, and the proof is fascinating. A psychologist named Laura Carstensen developed something called socio-emotional selectivity theory. Her finding was this: the shift in goals that older people experience isn't really about age, it's about perceived time horizon, how much time you feel you have left. When your future feels long and open, you naturally prioritize investment goals, building, growing, accumulating, planning for later. When your future feels short or limited, you naturally shift toward emotional goals, connection, presence, joy, right now. And Carstensen proved this experimentally in a way that should stop you in your tracks. She studied younger people who were living with symptomatic HIV in the 1990s, people facing a significantly shortened life expectancy, and their goal structures looked just like those of elderly people. They prioritized emotional connection, present joy, meaningful relationships, not because they were old, because their time horizon had contracted. Then she flipped it. She took healthy older adults and asked them to imagine a medical breakthrough that could extend their lives by several more decades, and their goals shifted back toward those of younger people. Growth, achievement, future investment, just like that. The age itself isn't the mechanism. The perceived time horizon is the mechanism. This means the happiness advantage of older adults isn't some magical wisdom that only arrives after 70 years of living. It's an adaptive response to a simple psychological reality. When you feel time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter right now. So, what do we actually do with this information? Because you can't just pretend to be retired. You have a mortgage, you have goals, you have things that genuinely need building. You can't flip a switch and suddenly have the goal structure of a 65-year-old. But researchers say the structural challenge is actually made much worse by a set of beliefs most of us have absorbed without realizing it. The first is the grind mindset. This is the belief that happiness and ambition are enemies, that relaxation is the rust that corrodes your success, that taking a day off is a moral failure, that you should always be grinding and any moment not spent building is a moment wasted.
People in this mindset delay happiness indefinitely, always one more milestone away from allowing themselves to feel good, always one more achievement away from finally relaxing. And the finish line keeps moving, and the relaxation never comes, and eventually they burn out. The second trap is the opposite, the YOLO trap, the reaction to relentless pressure that says, forget it, forget all of it. Pleasure is the only thing that matters right now. This produces a chaotic life where you're chasing enjoyment to numb the anxiety of neglected responsibilities, and the very responsibilities keep growing. Neither actually works. Most people under 40 are stuck oscillating between these two extremes, overworking until they crash, crashing into guilty, unproductive rest, feeling terrible about the rest, working harder to compensate, crashing again, repeat forever. And researchers say the fix is not choosing between these two extremes, it's dismantling the false choice entirely. Happiness is not the enemy of ambition. This has been studied extensively. Happy people are actually more productive in the long run, more resilient, more creative, better at their work. Happiness builds the cognitive and physical foundation that makes sustained ambition possible. And meaningful ambition, making real progress on goals that matter to you, actually builds the foundation for sustainable happiness. They are not enemies, they feed each other. So the practical question is, how do you build more intergoal compatibility into your actual life right now without waiting until you're retired? 3 things researchers suggest. First, expand your definition of happiness. Most younger adults think of happiness as high-energy excitement, thrill, euphoria, a wild night out, a vacation, an intense peak experience. These are genuinely enjoyable, but they're rare and hard to integrate into a normal week. Older adults are much better at appreciating low-arousal positive emotions, calm, contentment, quiet satisfaction, a peaceful cup of coffee, a tidy desk, the gentle pleasure of a task done well. These smaller, softer happinesses are far easier to weave into daily life, and they are just as nourishing as the big peaks. Second, choose activities that serve multiple purposes.
Instead of compartmentalizing your life into this hour is for work, this hour is for friends, this hour is for health, look for activities that hit two targets at once. Enjoy social connection? Have a regular dinner with colleagues. You're building your professional network and enjoying yourself simultaneously. Like physical activity? Join a team sport. You're getting fit and building relationships in one session. When an activity serves more than one of your goals at the same time, the goal conflict disappears. The guilt disappears with it. Third, seek happiness that feels meaningful. The gap between fun and meaningful is often much smaller than we think. If you enjoy writing, a blog that helps other people turns pleasure into contribution. If you enjoy fitness, a charity run adds purpose to exercise. You're not choosing between fun and meaningful, you're finding where they overlap and living there as much as possible. Here's the bottom line. Older adults are not happier because they have figured out some secret that only decades of hard living can teach you. They are happier because their goal structure finally stopped fighting their enjoyment. Because the things they do each day fit with the things they actually value. You don't have to wait until you're 65 for that. You can start building a life where your joy and your ambition aren't at war. Where taking an afternoon off isn't the betrayal of your future self, but an investment in it. Where presence isn't an escape from the future, but the foundation it's built on. The retired parents playing mahjong all day and coming home glowing aren't wasting time. They just finally figured out that happiness isn't something you chase, it's something you make room for.